Going live.
Yeah. All right, and we are live. Hello and welcome, everyone. This is Ines. I'm a B2B marketer in the logistics industry and a podcaster, and I'm very happy to have with me Rami Deeb. We're going to talk about consumer intelligence and the age of predictive marketing analytics. So we will address how it is transforming the operating model for marketers from reactive to proactive. Rami, he is a marketing manager at Talkworker. He will be talking about it later more in the details. He's a professional with a vast experience in the MENA region for the past 10 years. As MEA marketer executive, he manages the Talkworkers digital marketing efforts for the MEA markets, especially engaging with thought leaders, events, counter distributions, and cross-industry partnerships. Rami, happy to have you.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the introduction, Ines.
Yeah, thank you. And also happy to have someone from my own region.
Wonderful. Yeah.
So I leave
um,
it up to you to introduce yourself, the session, and yeah.
Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be giving this talk for such a audience at Digital Marketing Europe. My name is Rami Deeb, and I'm a marketing manager here at Talkwalker, the industry-leading consumer intelligence platform. So today's topic is a very interesting one. I am personally passionate about it, and I am very thrilled to be giving you the insights that I want to share. So I'm just going to share my presentation here. Yeah, so today's conversation is really going to be about consumer intelligence and the age of predictive marketing analytics, and specifically about the power of data, technology, and people. Most people, when we talk about predictive analytics, is that they assume that we are doing something so out of this world. We are reinventing the wheel, or something that we're predicting the future. Whereas in reality, we do have the tools and the knowledge and the technology needed in order to be able to better predict outcomes and to prepare for them ahead. And as someone, as a marketer, as a B2B marketer, I always like to start from the consumer. So we, as Talkwalker, have recently published a white paper called Shape Tomorrow. And it specifically focuses on how and why brands should prepare ahead and not be lagging behind and be reactive towards trends and changes. So going back to the consumer, we conducted a survey, or actually we leveraged a our platform to look back at into conversations during the past 2 years that are happening online, untriggered. These are people who are talking about what they want from brands, and we realized that more consumers, more than ever, they want brands to deliver faster customer experience. They want the brand to know exactly what the consumer wants, even without them asking for it. So this is very intriguing. This is very alarming for brands that naturally or have long been reactive in their way of doing things. So they do a market research, it takes a few months, and then they come back to the drawing board and they develop a product and they go to the market. That model worked for a while. It was relatively safe, but nowadays consumers expect a better experience and a much faster way from point A to point B. If you look at the graph here to the left, I mean, you can see even consumers want easier customer service, even element of nostalgia. So those are not things that you cannot prepare for. These are some ideas that consumers are telling you about them today. So as a matter of fact, the mention social mentions. So those are conversations happening online of positive CX have dropped by 17.5% between March 2020 and January 2020. So brands are lagging behind on that front, and brands need to be able to adjust to the new hybrid lifestyles of consumers. Going forward, the new normal is gonna reset the rules. It's going to change the way business is done, from marketing to sales to business development to product development to technology to etc. So it's very crucial. So how do you get to know someone? And obviously, you want to get to know your consumers. How do you get closer? How do you understand their needs and their what makes them tick? Obviously, you need to know a thing or two about them. You need to understand their background, the context they belong in, their feelings, their emotions, what makes them trigger, what makes them happy, sad, etc. So depending on your business, obviously. But as marketers, we are always looking for a way to add another layer of the data on top of the consumer or for our audience. So I want to tell you a bit of story here. If we look at this graph here, right? Obviously, it seems to be a graph where we are looking at the evolution of two metrics over time, it seems. And you see there's the blue curve and the pink curve. And they're from 2000 and 2009. And if you can look at the data, can anyone guess, by the way, in the chat, if anyone could guess what this graph is representing, please go ahead and drop it in the chat. But the point here is that we notice that these two data points are correlating across time, right? As you can see, from 2000 till 2009, there's a positive trend, and they're going in parallel relatively. As a matter of fact, this graph represents the correlation between consumption of mozzarella and civil engineering doctorates being awarded, right? And this is actually from Tyler Vigen, the author of Spurious Correlations. And it goes to show that looking at data in a vacuum is a very dangerous game to play, because you can make any assumption, you could make any conclusion, you can make any decision based on such, and it happens more often than we like to admit. Even as marketers, we look at one metric or even four metrics or five metrics that might correlate, but that not doesn't necessarily give you the full picture or the full understanding of why or what's going on. I always like those moments where, because I personally believe that data is a form of medium, and you as a person need to interpret and to analyze and to give it and enrich it, because on its own is not enough. Right. So the only conclusion here, obviously, is that the more mozzarella you consume, the more civil engineering doctorates being awarded. Woohoo! Problem solved. So, as I was saying, correlation is not causation. And ask any data scientist, and they would tell you that this is always the case. There are so many. So I always like this cartoon on the right. Like, there's the saying in the sales teams where, like, if you shave your head, guilty. You are more likely to close a sale because your appearance make you look more authoritative and you're more able to convince people, etc. But that is not the case. Data gives you signals, and in order to transform those signals into insights, you need to be able to connect them and to draw the full picture. The more dots you have, the better. But you need to know when to stop, because um, uh, I mean, when making a decision, there are endless amounts of data that you can take into consideration. There are endless amount of information that you can put into proportion and to see if this decision is going to be right. So this is why I always say, as marketers, we are a blend of an art and a science, because you're always relying on your gut feeling of what might work and what might not work, and those cultural nuances. So again, obviously, data gives you hints and indicators, but it does not give you the full picture so that you make conclusions. It allows you only to make assumptions, right? And one thing about data is that it alone cannot predict the future, right? If you look at any investment platform, they tell you past performance does not indicate future performance, because obviously there are so many moving pieces, there's so many changes that could affect the performance of this data, right? However, what data can do for you as a marketer is that it allows be prepared, to be ready for what might come, and to understand certain patterns, right? And to track those patterns across time, right? Though it's not necessarily set in stone, so it's a bit of a difficult concept to understand or to communicate, but it's just a way for you to think of data as a tool at the end of the day. Yes. So the point of data is not necessarily to understand exactly what's going to happen in the future, but to be able to set the frameworks from the start, right? Um, so as you have established, data alone is not enough, right? It's not going to give you the full picture. The solution must be in technology, as we hear quite a lot. And now, now we're almost ending Q1, but the point is that people are reassessing their marketing techs, their tech stacks, and they're seeing like, oh, more technology means better decisions, more faster decisions, more efficiency, more accuracy. So we have to get the latest technology and the newest and the most expensive, etc., without understanding the full value that this technology brings. Right. So you need an analytics tool, a visualization tool, an analysis tool, a surveillance tool, or whatever. So however, this is not the case. I always say that technology is a tool and it's not the goal. Technology is only supposed to accelerate your journey and able to make it smoother as you are getting closer to your consumers. Because you can have the best technology, but the worst experience. Therefore, it's not going to be efficient, right? So it didn't serve. And technology is only as good as how you use it, right? So you might, for example, use Slack for as a tool to communicate with your team members and to coordinate. But if no one else uses the tool from your team, then the technology didn't fail. The communication part, the usage failed. So this is just a way to simplify things. There's this very interesting quote from Jonathan Sachs, who's a clergyman. Technology gives us power, but it does not and cannot tell us how to use that power. Thanks to technology, we can instantly communicate across the world, but it still doesn't help us know what to say. This is on point, specifically what I'm trying to say. It automates and accelerates, but it is not the whole thing. So now that we have established that data alone and technology alone working in silos are not enough to predict what's going to happen in the future, some of you might assume that, okay, let's go back to old school, just let's do things the manual way, where we rely on human analysis, where we rely on good old fashioned focus groups, surveys, uh, doing manual research, phone calls, all sorts of things. However, there's obviously, as you might know, those methods worked for the past, but nowadays they are very difficult to replicate across markets. There are so many changing pieces that are socioeconomic, political among consumers. So the consumer in the US is very much different than the consumer in Africa and in Europe and Asia, etc. Excuse me if I have. Mm. So, going back to my point, human analysis is great because it brings the expertise and the knowledge of the person who's analyzing this data. However, it might also fall into the trap of bias and inaccuracies and to personal interpretation. So it's not very objective or as objective as we'd like it to be. No matter how trained you are, you're always going to bring your own experience into the data that you see in front of you. So, to wrap things up, obviously consumers are a different breed these days, and brands must definitely leverage the triage of data, technology, and people in order to really get close to consumers and to have a seat with them whenever they are consuming or they have any concern or have any idea that they want to have from the brand. So obviously, it's gonna relying on data, technology, and people is gonna be able to help you make quicker, data driven decisions and innovate and prepare ahead, and to also create strong brands that future consumers want to be with. So nowadays, as a brand, as a competitive landscape, you cannot afford to have the back seat. You really need to be forward looking and to always be ahead of the curve. Not, I mean, the curve should be a point for you at this point because that's how far you are from the curve. You need to, and we hear this quite a lot about technology companies because they say that like they already have the technology that we will be using 10 years from now. I don't know if that's true because I personally have not worked with those giant technology companies. But I'm assuming marketing and B2B marketers specifically need to be able to have those frameworks set from today because we already have the everything we need. We have the data, we have the technology, we have people, and all of this is happening in real time. So uh, it's not there's nothing stopping you. So let's jump right into analyzing how data allows you to get closer to your consumer, right? And as any marketer would tell you, things can get complicated quite fast and easily. Like, you have your Salesforce, you have Google Analytics, you have your Marketo, you have your ad manager, you have your social platforms, and you have to download all those Excel sheets, and you have to set up a deck to do your report, and you have to make analysis. uh, while you're doing that, your competitor had already developed this new cool thing. And this is happening at Fortune 500 organizations and at startups. You'd be surprised just how the data maturity frameworks are not there yet. So what you want to establish is having a single source of the truth, a platform or a place where your data, both external and internal, could be sorry yeah, so your data, both internal and external, could be in the same place, enriched with all data points that you have, both from social media, from your first party data, from consumption behavior, from image analysis, from reviews that people are posting on sites like Amazon or Google or whatnot. You need to be able to have this holistic view, bird's eye view, while at the same time be able to zoom in without having to disconnect or download an Excel sheet or do all that extra work that is quite manual and not quite efficient, because there are obviously many accuracies. So having this data, as you can see, there are 97 zettabytes of data, so it's humanly impossible to analyze as a marketer. As much as we'd like to say that marketers are superheroes, but there are some restrictions with data. So yes, data is beautiful, but it's only as beautiful as you can manage it, right? In order to maximize the impact of data within your organization, you need to have artificial intelligence. And this comes the part for technology. As I said, technology is a tool and it only helps you accelerate already existing processes. So if you buy the technology without knowing how or why you're using it, forget about it. So now that we have established that you have the data, you have the centralized framework, you need to activate it. You need to make connections, make analysis, make correlations, make any sort of analysis that you as a human being might have missed, which is fine. This is why we created this technology, to uncover hidden intelligence in data, because as I said, data can be a very crucial medium for you to uncover what consumers want and what consumers expect from you in the future. So at Talkwalker here, we have developed our proprietary AI algorithm, which we call Blue Silk. It helps you obviously clean up your data to make sure that your data is of high quality, it's full, it's accurate, and it's consistent across all touch points. It also allows you to make predictive analysis. So it gives you the next best action for leveraging predictive scoring. So it gives you advice, right? So it doesn't give you assumptions or conclusions, but it gives you advice like, hey, this market segment is reacting this way for your campaign. Maybe you want to address it, or maybe there's negative sentiment happening and that you want to react in real time. I'm not going to go in depth with so much, but there's one particular aspect of AI is the image detection, visual analytics. We see this with our clients, with our prospects, with everyone we meet. Visual analytics has become a very crucial part of the marketing mix, because more consumers than ever are talking about your brand without you knowing about it. They are posting TikToks, they're posting YouTube videos, they're posting Instagram, and your logo might be in the background. And your logo is your property, is your bread and butter, right? You want to make sure that you are being presented in a very positive way, that you are not portrayed in any negative light, that you're not missing in any opportunity to build a strong brand. So this is when we talk about AI allowing you to scale your operations and to understand what consumers. So this could be the example of football matches, and your logo is appearing in the background of Lionel Messi scoring a goal. You might not realize it, but your brand is going viral, with that specific goal. Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi, depending on which team you're on. But the point is that, as I said, AI is here to enrich your analysis and accelerate your process, right? However, also on the side of technology is to have a robust platform. Because if you have the data, all these centralized ways, and you have the artificial intelligence, you need to have a platform that allows you to action it and to have break down those data silos across teams and departments within your organization. So if you work with marketing or sales or BD or product development or even with management, they all need to be on the same page. And this has been a very major obstacles for forward-looking brands, because marketing could be on one page and sales could be on another priority, so it might cause misalignment, and in the long run misalignment could cause issues, and your strategies might not be in synergy. So obviously, the consumer intelligence acceleration platform is meant to make your business better and your brand stronger internally and externally. So going back to what Talkwalker does is that specifically, it gives you a core platform, obviously, with the data, with the artificial intelligence, with the services, and you are able to develop intelligence, both social market intelligence and customer intelligence, and it has a very wide spectrum depending on your needs. And you need a tool that works with you, right? You don't need a set platform that is, in the box, this is it, you can't change it. You need a platform that lives and adapts to your needs. And this is what we have been trying to adjust, because this is what consumers are telling us, and this is what future consumers want and expect. You want to build your own dashboards, you want to build your own templates, you want to build your own data sets, you want to schedule your own alerts, etc., etc. So it is very crucial that technology matches the business needs of companies or brands. And lastly, what I want to talk about really is about insights. So the transition from data points to insight requires obviously a huge amount of data and huge amount of contextual knowledge. And this is where it comes to people. When I said human analysis, uh, real humans understand real humans, because as much as we have trained the algorithm, you still need the human touch to really know the why behind the what, to understand the socioeconomic culture or the history of that consumer before making a decision. Because sometimes data might give you an insight, but it might be incomplete without that knowledge of that market. And this is why at Talkwalker we have a such an international team, people coming from all over the world, over I believe it was like 50 nationalities, bringing their insights and their expertise, obviously, but also their cultural know-how. And this is a crucial element for forward-looking marketers, forward-looking brands, because by the time that you understand a certain market, before you go to that market, you're already behind. So the more insight you bring, the better. As I said here, humans are understanding humans, and you are able to unravel data and in a much more understandable way. So I'm going to take you into a bit of a journey, and to wrap what we have just discussed. So for long, brands have relied on data. For long, they have and analyzed things. But the way that we look at it now is obviously, initially it was all about social listening, right? So the way with social listening is that people tweet about a certain topic, and you as a brand would be able to understand the context or the sentiment or the main themes surrounding it, or the what's driving them to tweet about that certain topic, right? So it allows you to understand what happened, because it already happened in the past, right? So it's nothing in the future. But now we go a step further, because you want to understand why did it happen, right? So here you are analyzing the keywords that surround that certain topic. You're understanding the time of day that they are posting about that certain topic. You're diagnosing the triggers that made them. So it could be a certain product, a certain ideology, a certain drive to contribute to that certain topic. So at this point, you are only analyzing why did it happen, because it already happened in the past. Moving forward, we arrive to the stage of consumer intelligence, right? Because you are able now to determine what could happen in the future, what might happen. And as I said, it doesn't give you a conclusion, it gives you assumptions. It gives you the ability to establish these scenarios. And as a marketer, you have to be able to be flexible enough to react to those scenarios as they happen, right? This is on the front of consumer intelligence, because you are able to connect first party data with third party data, with social data, with predictive analytics, with visual analytics, with human analysis to prepare ahead. However, the fourth step is about consumer closeness, and this is a crucial part, because if we look back into the early 2000s, where mostly technologies and companies were focused on data, trying to collect as much data as possible, because huge amounts of data were being generated. Though moving forward, companies were focused on technology, building the sexiest technology, building the best and the fastest and the strongest technology platforms. Trying to attract consumers to buy their products. However, nowadays the focus is on consumers, and we, as Talkwalker, have found that the most sustainable and the most forward-looking way of doing or running your business is to uh, get closer to your consumer, right? Because they are the ones who are interacting with your brands, and they are the ones determining the success or the failure of your brand. At the end of the day, you really need to sit down, have an allegorical seat next to your consumer, and to really understand their what makes them tick, and be empathetic towards them, and to understand their needs before they happen, right? And this is why we say about, like, social media platforms. They might be listening to us. They might, because you sometimes talk about a certain topic, and you see an 3 hours later, you might see an ad on your social media platform. You automatically think, they might be listening, but no, in reality, your behavior on the platform, the pages that you follow, the posts that you like, or the posts that you share, give the algorithm the signals that you are ready for this future need. Sometimes you look at ads and you're like, okay, this is interesting, but like, why am I getting this ad? But you, as a consumer at this point, are giving signals for that platform to understand that, okay, this person is interested in that certain product or topic or service. So it is very crucial to get closer to your consumer for the long run. It gives you resilience and agility and the competitive advantage, right? So proactive brands achieve better ROIs and focus on efforts that accelerate growth, right? By achieving consumer closeness, you are able to determine, whether if you get a lead, you're better able to understand if they're a good fit for that service, and you're able to score on how promising they are. And it allows you to move to more holistic qualitative data. And qualitative data has been a very misunderstood topic among marketers, because everyone understands it differently. But once you have these frameworks established, you're able to know that people are more loving towards a brand, or they are getting angry, or they're getting they're apathetic towards a certain topic. So you don't want to waste your time as a marketer to do something that doesn't drive any impact, especially if you are preparing for a seasonal campaign. Like, for example, now we have Ramadan coming up. You might have Christmas, you might have Black Friday, you might have any sort of campaign that you're running. So you want to prepare ahead and build on the success. I want to give you an example of a major US retail chain. It's a very popular chain. It's one of the biggest supermarket chains in the US, and how they have combined um, historic data, historic technology, and human knowledge, and they were able to prepare ahead. So, using real time data from its systems, so from the cashiers, from the shelves on the supermarkets, from the stock that they were able to assess what products were more likely to run out of stock. People were just going to grab them, and you're going to run out of stock. And what products will be underperforming the upcoming season, which I believe was Black Friday. And how they combined it with another layer of behavioral consumer data from social media review sites and online news. So, um, obviously, people are tweeting about this certain product without the context of that, without mentioning that supermarket, without mentioning anything about it. People are going on review sites to talk about that certain product, and on online news. Even sometimes supermarket retailers might have data on how people walk within the supermarket, and how often do they look at the price, and how often do they pick an item off the shelf, to look at the ingredients, to look at the packaging, etc. So all this data combined together between real-time data and between social media and review sites and online news, they were able to prepare ahead and to decrease or increase product demand. So they were able to prepare their mobile app and offer better deals and better incentive for consumers to come to their shops and to shop there, basically. So increasing revenue at the end of the day, just by leveraging the data and the technology they have in place, right? So at the end of the day, what they did is that they saved money, saved energy, and saved time, with while also creating customer service that people love. So imagine going to the store, finding exactly what you wanted first thing that you walked in, right? Like you didn't have to spend 2 hours trying to search for it or like bargain for it or anything. No, they already knew that you were going to that supermarket to buy that certain product, this mug for example. Like they knew that you were going to go there. So I'm just giving this example is a very simplified and very relatable because we do it on a weekly basis, right? We go to the supermarket, and but we really need to think of it in the digital space as well. How brands can understand, like, okay, this is the summer season coming up. Maybe you want to give them, if you're a travel agency or a travel, you're an airline, you want to, put discounts to that certain destination because there's a music festival happening there. That this is attractive for this age group. They have been tweeting about it. We saw that people are tweeting about it. So, people want to go to Spain versus people want to go to Morocco, et cetera, et cetera. So the examples could be many, but I'm just trying to get it closer to the subject here today. So I'm just going to give three use cases of this triage: data, technology, and people. Why is it important for social media teams? Obviously, as a social media manager or someone who's working on social, you at the forefront. You are at the forefront of the brand. You are in direct contact with consumers who are increasingly going to social media to complain about your brand, to show their love for your brand, to showcase their newest gadget, newest product. They're going social media to live. Basically, people are living on social media nowadays or on digital. If you want to be more inclusive, so you are leveraging these triage data technology people to build better social campaigns, to build and develop a stronger brand for the future, and to always be at the forefront of new things. So, we saw it could be as simple as a meme. If it's going viral and you are being relevant, you are seizing that opportunity. You're showing that, okay, you are listening to what your consumers are interacting with, and you might have the biggest free PR in the world just because you were able to seize that opportunity, for example. And we all know how difficult organic engagement is becoming in the recent years. So, organic engagement, this is the way to do it. You get relevant, get personal. Don't be afraid to voice your opinion as a brand, and safely, obviously, in line with what your consumers are saying. Um, and the second use case here is really about how PR and comms teams could benefit from this forward-looking way of doing things: data, technology, and people. So, as I said, you're able to really align your brand voice and your PR messaging to what consumers are saying. You don't want to sound as you're living on, on a cloud, and you're just raining down news and you hoping for the best to happen. You want your press releases, you want your PR efforts to be obviously consistent and in alignment with your corporate or your company messaging. However, you want to do so in a way that will attract eyes, in a way that makes people want to know more about your brand and relate to it, right? So it's not just about you launching a product and that's it. Okay, you launched a product, but how is this going to affect the consumer's life? How is it going to make it better? How is it going to make consumers? Why should they care, right? And by getting closer to your consumers, you are able to identify why they should care. And the third point that I really want to highlight is consumer closest for insights teams, because insight teams in all companies are obviously data driven. They are very savvy with technology. They are always making predictions and analysis. However, they tend to sometimes focus too much on the data without looking at the consumers, who are human beings, who are moving parts, who have feelings, emotions, drivers. They have a different way of looking at things. So, what consumer closeness does to you as an insights professional is that it gives you the speed and agility without sacrificing any depth or rigor. Because who are you doing the insights for, right? If you insights, it could be whether or not you want to place the handle like this, or you want to make a mug without a handle, or it could be what you want to make it thermal resistant, whatever. So the insights are ultimately going to affect the consumer's life. uh, uh, so to wrap things, and this is my last slide, and I promise I won't take much of your time today. So the conclusion really is about how consumer intelligence lies at the heart of forward-looking businesses, tomorrow's businesses. It's not. This is the new way of doing things. Customers are telling you. what they want and what they expect. So you need to be listening and listening intentively with very active listening, as I'd like to say. So it's not just you, okay, realizing that they're saying something, but no, actually acting upon it and making sure that they are being heard. Second point is customer demands are constantly changing with social and cultural changes. Are you keeping up as a brand? You are a living and breathing a brand, so you can no longer afford being a static without taking a stance on issues or without making your brand relatable to the masses. And lastly, the journey from reactive to proactive requires brands to put in place forward looking data and forward looking technology and forward looking people who are always one step ahead. And I really want to thank you today for listening. I hope my brief conversation has intrigued you. It was very exciting for me to meet you all. If you feel like you have any questions or if you'd like to explore our platform, please feel free to reach out and we'd be happy to support you. Obviously, my email is r.deeb@talkwalker.com. Feel free to email me or connect with me on LinkedIn. If you have any questions or if you have any suggestions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A.
Yeah, we
I
do
see
have
there's a
a question. Yeah, from
yes,
Vidya. What kind of researches tools are useful for understanding consumers' needs today?
yes. So this is a perfect question actually, and it touches upon a very critical aspect of doing business. So research, it really depends on why you're doing the research. I always say that before going into the data, before digging into the technology, you really understand why you're doing or why you're doing your research. What is your end goal, and work backwards, because it really helps you guide the thinking method. Is it, for example, you want to understand how a certain product has performed during a certain period of time, for example, Ramadan, right? So most people during that time are fasting, Muslim people specifically. Most people, Muslim people are not eating as often, so they have different consumer habits. So you want to understand what they're tweeting about or posting on social media about that certain product or a certain line. And once you do that, you are able to analyze their sentiment, their how they're feeling about the flavor, for example. So we get this, for example, one company in Canada was trying to develop a new flavor for a cookie, as simple as that. And they realized that Canadians are not like Americans when it comes to that front. So American consumers are more chocolate chip cookie type of consumer, which is the most popular type of cookie. But in Canada, it's a bit different, and they were trying to figure out what was going on. However, with focus groups, people tend to not give them the right answer, direct answer, because they are in the confines of a focus group. They are physically in front of you. They might not give you the accurate answer. So
Mm.
what they did is that they went online and they saw that most people were tweeting or posting about, "I wish there was a maple syrup flavored cookie." As simple as that. People were posting memes about it because the Canadian flag has the maple leaf on its flag, and people were saying, "Oh, that is such a Canadian thing to say." However, the company actually developed the product and put it to market, and it was proven to be very popular among Canadian consumers because they were used maple syrup to pancakes. It felt very close to them. So this is just a very basic example of how you can leverage these tools and these research methods to better understand what your consumers want and to act upon it, not just strictly from a marketing perspective, because we don't want to look at marketing as simply creating events or doing those campaigns or whatever. Lead to better products, could better to increase sales or build better brands or make more accurate insights. I hope this answers your question, Viva.
Yeah, there was another question from Katarzyna about the tools as well. I think they're very insisting about if you know any social listening tools.
Oh yes, I mean the one social listening tool that I could think of is obviously Talkwalker. We do offer that service. As I said, our platform is a holistic consumer intelligence platform, but it's malleable. It adjusts your needs. Obviously, it's not a set in stone type of thing. So if you would like to explore more about Talkwalker, do reach out. I'd be happy to give you a full on demo specifically for your needs.
Yeah. Yeah, we still have 5 minutes. Maybe last question from my side. For the consumers,
Yeah.
it's like it's easy to say for especially for B2B that are a bit different. We're dealing like with seniors, decision makers that are skeptical about all these marketing stuff, and like they would have the extreme other reaction that we will shut you down, or and like shut you off. How do we deal with those? How do we approach them in that humanism approach that you talked about?
Yes, obviously. So B2B brands are a very particular type of consumer because we obviously work with B2B. I'm a B2B marketer. And the way we approach them is really highlight the value because, as you know, marketing budgets across the world is shrinking. And we really need to be as agile and as impactful as possible. So, what we do is really highlight the value. And it is really about saving time because B2B brands are always trying to be ahead of the competition. So competitive intelligence is a very critical matter of like what our competition is doing. So they might not think of the end consumer directly, but they think about the competition. Like what is X doing that I'm not doing, right? Like they want to see what the competition is doing, right? Even more, they really find the value of real time analysis. Real time data is a very critical part of the marketing mix because it allows you to react swiftly and to make sure that you are on the forefront of the latest technologies or the latest messages that are going out there. So for B2B marketers, I always say that like I always put myself in their shoes and tell them, listen, I know that you have launched this product, but it didn't quite perform well. But do you know why it didn't perform well, or what you could do better the next time? So then you grab their attention, right?
Yeah, great. Thanks a lot, Rami.
No worries. Yes, but if I could just answer Willamina's question about the accuracy of predictions and how do they gather the data. So and the legality of this, because it's a very crucial thing. So I'll give you the answer from a Talkwalker perspective. We are fully GDPR compliant. We are official Twitter partners. We have Firehose access to Twitter and other social media platforms as well. These are all legal, and we are only gathering publicly available content. So it is within the privacy policies of those platforms. We're not doing any tracking or any of that sort. So it's all publicly available. You can do it manually, but it's not efficient. Obviously, we give you all this data transparently and as efficiently as possible. The collection of this data happens through our proprietary technology. We have our own crawlers across audio, video, images, and written media as well as our Activate services, who are human consultants, obviously, who help you activate and work with this data. I hope that we still have 2 minutes, but I don't want to take more. If you have any more questions, Wilhelmina, please feel free to reach out to me.
Great. Okay, thanks everyone for joining. Don't not forget to rate the session and check the other sessions and the schedule ahead. And yeah, thanks, Rami.
Thank you. It was nice to be here.
Bye bye.
Bye.
And we're ending the session. Cool.
Cool.